A few months ago, when I was offered the opportunity to participate in this TED event, I immediately said yes. And then my brain took over, and I started to think about this, and a few things crossed my mind, like, I've never done a TED Talk before. What if I'm not very good at this? What's the worst thing that could happen? I could fail miserably. After several weeks of contemplating this impending failure I was about to embark on, I decided I needed some help. So I turned to the internet to see if I could find some advice on failure, on how I could avoid failing. Perhaps some inspiring quote on the topic. Surely there's some excellent tips from successful people on how I can avoid failing. I spent quite a bit of time and effort only to find a lot of not so inspiring quotes. It seemed as though failure was inevitable. The more I read, the more I realized that successful people were in a way encouraging me to fail. They shared their own failures. Many of them wore their failures as like a badge of honor. It was somehow baked into their process. But how could this be? Why were so many successful people and organizations failing and encouraging others to do the same? So I looked up the definition of failure, and it turns out that highly successful people and organizations tend to have a different definition than what you'll find in the dictionary. I'll try to sum up their definition with the following. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is accelerated learning and opportunity. Avoiding failure limits your opportunity in learning. Fear of failure prevents success. If you don't participate, you cannot improve. Remember that every great athlete, renowned artist, and successful entrepreneur began as a novice and failed repeatedly along the way with critical feedback and introspection. As Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've simply found 10,000 ways that won't work." I have a little secret to share. I myself am a lifelong failure. I know this because people tell me I'm wrong all the time. And I firmly believe that failure is an option. You should strive for success, and you should also have a plan for failure, because failures happen to everyone. To illustrate this, I've chosen a few truly epic failures to hopefully inspire you on your own path to failing. Founded in 2002, SpaceX went on to completely or partially destroy 23 rockets, 2 drone ships, and a launch pad. Knowledge acquired from the data acquisition after each failure and the analysis allowed them to develop the most advanced orbital payload delivery system in the world in less than 2 decades. Famous YouTube star Simone Gertz began her YouTube channel with the goal of creating the world's worst robots. Her hilarious robot failures led to many opportunities for her. She's been featured in numerous magazines, television shows, other media, and she's even founded her own company. Vincent van Gogh was an utter failure as an artist during his lifetime. But he continued to paint for his own enjoyment and created more than 2,000 pieces of works. His paintings are now amongst the most recognizable of all time and sell for millions of dollars. There are many more anecdotal stories about failure, but I need evidence and data to support my assertion that I need to fail to the best of my ability. For that, I needed to turn to a group of people who've turned failure into a testable, repeatable, and verifiable process. Scientists. As everyone should know, every great hypothesis requires that it's testable and that it can be verifiably false. Essentially, a condition under which the hypothesis fails. The scientific method defines the failure state of a hypothesis as being essential to the advancement of knowledge. And if you spend enough time with scientists, you'll come to realize that most of the time they are absolutely giddy when a hypothesis fails because they've learned something new. So, have scientists tested the idea that failure is essential? And does the science support this? As a matter of fact, it does. A 2019 study from the University of Arizona titled "Learning is Optimized When We Fail About 15% of the Time" found that if you're always getting 100% on your test scores, you're probably not learning anything new. In 2018, researchers found students who guessed at an answer and got it wrong, and then received feedback on their incorrect answers, performed better than students who were given material to memorize beforehand. It turns out when you make mistakes, you learn better. Another study from 2004 found that studying in a way that allows students to make more mistakes and then reviewing those mistakes with critical feedback improves critical thinking skills and knowledge retention. There are dozens of other published peer-reviewed articles and studies that support the importance of making mistakes, and that making mistakes when paired with critical reflection improves learning, performance, and knowledge retention. The science is clear. If you want to succeed, you have to fail first. So is it possible to optimize failure? Somehow use it to gain an advantage? I like to think that I'm somewhat of an expert at failing. My life has been one continuous string of failures. And I'd like to share some of my experience on that process. Allowing yourself to fail can be really scary. It can be difficult. And if it's practiced without reflection and analysis, it can be absolutely paralyzing. One of my most meaningful and joyful activities outside of my work as a game developer is coaching a First Tech Challenge robotics team known as Roboctopi. I've been doing this for almost 6 years. When parents, educators, or people in general ask me about this team, I often tell them that the primary way that I determine how successful their season has been is not by the number of trophies or matches that they've won. It's by the size of the pile of failed ideas and abandoned parts at the end of the year. Now, people often misinterpret this statement to mean one or more of the following. A, that fewer failed ideas or a smaller pile of parts equals more success. B, that our team lacks competence or passion, and therefore we expect failure. C, that the coaches and students do not work hard or strive for excellence. Their definition of the word failure matches what's in the dictionary. But students on the team are encouraged to try new ideas even if they might fail, to analyze their failures, to improve them or start over, and to inspect their successes for flaws. When failure is practiced with careful analysis, introspection, and self-reflection, it drives innovation. It accelerates learning. It empowers everyone on the team to become better. As you can see from the image above, they are a highly respected and award-winning team despite, or perhaps I should say, because of their many failures. failure can be a superpower. I'd like to conclude my talk with a few thoughts on success versus failure and what that means to me. Perhaps a better definition of failure is as a starting point rather than a condition. It's possible to make no mistakes and still lose the game. So take some risks. It's possible to get every answer on the test correct and still learn nothing. So go learn something new. Perfection doesn't exist. Things are abandoned when they meet everyone's expectation of good enough. You don't have to be successful at something or even good at it to enjoy it. So do it anyway. When something fails or behaves unexpectedly, investigate why. And remember to be kind to yourself and be gentle with others when mistakes are made. If you're never wrong about anything or change your mind, that means that you're probably wrong about most things. Remember, you don't have to be perfect today. Just try to suck less than you did yesterday. I hope that everyone here that's listening will allow their future selves to go out and fail a little bit. Make some mistakes. Take some risks. Be wrong and find out why. Or be bad at something and do it anyway. And that this will ultimately lead to you increasing your own knowledge, opportunity, and enjoyment. Thank you.